Hey guys, so we're back with Grandpa Roy. We're gonna continue our story. Just keep on asking him questions, and I think we're gonna get into the Navy and a couple girlfriends he dated and all that good stuff. So, do you want to say hi to everybody, Grandpa?
Hi, it's me.
It's Roy. So, as you guys know, we're Norwegian, so I thought we could start out with an Ole and Lena joke. That's one of his favorite things to do is tell Ole and Lena jokes. So, do you want to tell one, Grandpa?
Yeah, I can tell one. It won't be too funny, but Ole and his friend, they went hunting one Sunday, and they were pretty close together by the highway, and here come a funeral with the people all following the hearse. And when Ole seen it, he turned and he took his hat off and put his head down, and when the funeral had passed by, then his friend come over and says, "Gee, Ole," he says, "you're pretty sad when you just have people pass you at the funeral." And so, and then Ole says, "Well," he says, "I was married to her for the 35 years. That's it." Want another one?
You can tell another one. One more.
One more? Oh, okay. Um, Ole and Lena, they were farmers and they only lived a quarter of a mile away from town. So when they retired, they stayed right on the farm. And as they got older, they done less and less stuff. And Ole didn't really care about driving then. And then he told Lena, "Let's go to town today." And Lena says, "Okay." And so they started out. And Ole said to Lena, "Yeah, when I get near the highway there, you stop. Like, you tell me if any cars is coming on your side, and then I'll look on my side." So when they got up there, why they drove right on the highway, and they got hit. And Ole says, "Lena, you were supposed to tell me when there was a car coming." And Lena says, "Well," he says, "that was no car, that was a truck. That's it."
That was funny. Okay. Are you done with your jokes? We'll tell a couple more in the next video, okay? We'll tell a couple each video we do.
Okay.
Okay, so we ended with like probably your preteens. Do you want to share anything like your favorite memory of when you were growing up, and then we'll move into your teenage years?
Well, one of the memories I had when I was probably in the third grade, and one of my friends come up to the back of the bus. There was a horse-driven bus, and he was pushing on the door, and I pushed him back, and then he turned, he looked at me, and he says, "I'll get you tomorrow." So all night long, I dreamt about and thought about what's going to happen. That kind of scared me. And when I got to school, he was right there, and he come over, he gave me a kick, and then that was it. I had worried for no reason at all. But I remember that story because I thought about it for so long. But there's little things like that that happen between us. But it turned out to be that he was my best friend through life. We hunted together every weekend, and we played together and talked together and everything. And he ended up living here in where I live, and he was on the Minnesota side, and I was on the North Dakota side. And we'd go over to see them, and they'd come back to see us, and we've kind of been friends for some time. Anyway, he passed away here about a year ago. It was kind of sad because he suffered from a heart ailment for many years. And I often thought it's sure funny. We walked in the woods for miles and miles and got plenty of exercise, and then he ended up with a bad heart. But
was that the Vettel boy you always talk about?
That's right.
Yeah.
And his wife come over after I come back home from a vacation, and I hadn't heard about that he had passed away, and then it went by many months before I heard, and I called her and told her that she had my sympathy, and anyway, she come over and we talked for quite a while, but she sold her house and she moved to a smaller house, and I haven't seen her since. Yesterday we were at Senior Citizens, and this lady that goes to the same church, she asked about her, and then I said, well, I haven't heard from her for some time. She was thinking about selling her house, and that lady said she had sold the house and moved to a smaller apartment, so I haven't talked to her since. But
yeah. And you just lost your best friend across the hall not that long ago either, right?
Yeah.
That lived across the hall from you and Grandma?
Yeah.
What was his name?
I was telling my son that since we moved to Grand Forks this soon 12 years ago, and somebody has passed away on our floor. That I'm on the 6th floor, and there's 4 units on each side. It's called the Columbia Park Towers, and the towers are the way it was built up, so they were separate, but then they joined together under the same roof. And then on the 6th floor, we have the community room, and people come in there for all the meetings and playing cards and everything. Anyway, Candace Grandma, my wife, she passed away here on September 12th, 6 years ago. Time has went so fast. And my neighbor now, he died here a year ago. He was just a few feet from my door. And then Grandma, my wife, passed away. And then in the other units, the lady lost her husband. And then here last year, the other lady in the other unit on the South Tower, she got a phone call one morning, and her daughter had a store downtown, and she was always the first one in, and she hadn't come in. And so they called her and told her that. So her and her other daughter, they went over there, and when they knocked on the door, there was no answer, and they opened the door, and here she lay dead just inside the door. And I think she was 39. must have been a heart attack. And then in the other tower on the 6th floor, just 2 days ago now, well, the funeral was today, this other man that's been having heart trouble, and he had a heart attack at home, and he passed away then. And then right next to him was Joyce, her name was. She passed away about a year ago. And now 2 weeks ago, the friend of the neighbor next to me, he passed away at his funeral, all within inside of a few.
Oof, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's and then another year and a half ago, when my neighbor died, then the lady next to me, she found her daughter and died. And then our caretaker that took care of the building at 10:30 one night, that's 2 years ago now, he was sitting at the table and he had a heart attack and died right at the table. So it's when somebody has died, and all of them. Now on the south tower where I live on the 6th floor, there's 2 units, and I live alone, and then the lady right on the north side of me, she lives alone, and then across the hallway, Teresa, she lives alone. She lost her son I think it was sometime in the last year. Then, of course, Glenn, my friend right across the hallway, he got cancer and died in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that was your buddy. Yeah, after he lost his wife and grandma passed away, you guys would just keep your doors unlocked and just go back and forth and visit each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't lock our door because if something happened to one of us, we could probably have a heart attack of some kind. Anyway, there's just a few steps to his door, and we can just open the door and yell, you know. That's the reason we left them locked.
I know it's not an elderly building, but there's a lot of elderly people that do live in that condo. What is there, 60-some, 80-some condos in there?
Well, it's a 10-story building, and it's a concrete building, and the 2 top floors are
4 on each side.
2 units together.
Yeah, on the top 2 floors. So that would be... Anyways.
Well, half the people in the place here, they're younger, and they all work, and the other half have retired, you know. So we meet a lot of friends, and we get past one another every single day, you know, when we go for the mail, and we just talk.
That's a really nice condo. Nice people. Well, we kind of got off track here. We were supposed to start with your teenage years here. And I'm only going to try and make these videos 30 minutes. So we're already halfway through it, Grandpa. Do you want to get into maybe when you were a teenager and maybe your first girlfriend or first crush or anything you want to share there?
Well, my first girlfriend that I dated, I didn't date any girl up until I was a senior in high school. And then I started going with my brother to this small town across the river, and right away I met her, and then I asked her to go to the dance, and then that got to be every weekend we'd go there, and together, and then I'd walk her home because her folks run the cafe, and they were just across the street from the dance hall. And a couple of years before that, we were in the town next to us in the evening, a bunch of us, and when we met these girls from the next town, and it happened that started talking, and we drove her home, and then I didn't see her for a couple of years, and when I was in the cafe on a Saturday night, her and another girlfriend come in, and they seen me in the booth, and they come over, and they talked a while, and then they left, and then I got up, and I went and asked my girlfriend, let's go to the dance, and she says, no, I'm going with Vernon. And it just shocked me, and I turned around, I walked out, and next day I joined the Navy, and I didn't see her until 3 years later when we come back from Korea. She lived on the West Coast, and it got to be between the two girls, and then it ended up I married Chanda's grandmother, and then that's the girl that seen me in the cafe. And when I was home on leave, I had a couple of friends. We'd been in Fargo, and as we drove out of Fargo, one of them said something about the girl standing across the street at the bus stop. And
you can say her name, Dolores.
And the other guy says, that's Dolores. Stop, I said, stop. I ran across the street, and we dated as long as I was home, and we wrote letters, and we decided to get married then when I got discharged, and that's how I met Chanda's grandma.
Okay, so who is the lady you were dating, and then, or you weren't really dating her, but you liked her, and then she said she was gonna go to the dance with somebody else, and then you just said the heck with her, and you went to join the Navy the next day, right?
Yeah.
What was her name?
Well, when I joined the Navy, I went through boot camp, and we never wrote to one another, nothing.
So she wasn't really your girlfriend?
Yeah. Later on, when we come back from Korea, she come down to our ship, and she was waiting for me outside the gate. And I just dated her for that day. And when I was home on my last leave, that's when I met Grandma. And it ended up when I got discharged, we got married. That's 65 years ago.
Okay, so what about Gladys? What happened?
Yeah, Gladys, I went with her in between when I was home on my... I only had 2 leaves on the 4 years I was in, and I met Gladys at the first leave, I think it was. And then when we went to Korea, I never got letters, and I never sent letters because it at that time, there wasn't much of a mail deal, and it took us quite a while to get across the Pacific Ocean, so we never got any mail or nothing. And finally, one day in Korea, we got the helicopter come out with the mail, and it was kind of storming out, and the sea was kind of high, and they were flying so low, and for some reason or other, they got a splash of water, and they sunk. The helicopter stopped and it went down, and then a couple of days later they got some cranes and stuff, and they pulled the helicopter up and they got the mail, but it was a pretty sad deal because it was pretty well soaked out. And then I got a letter from my brother, and he was dating my girl, and I had told him, take her out now a few times so she doesn't get too lonely, and he took her out all right. And ended up they got married. So I didn't have too good luck to start with.
That story kills me. I think it's so hilarious. You go take her out. Oh, we're getting married, by the way. Oh, that's funny. So when did you meet Grandma? So you met Grandma when she was 14, but you didn't date her till you got out of the Navy.
No. Well, no, when I come back from Korea and come home on leave, that's when I met her. And then that was in April, and then 6 months later when I got discharged, we got married.
So do you want to tell anything about you being in the Navy? Any funny stories? Or I laughed at your story when you said that you didn't want to be there after like 2 years, but you were stuck. Remember? Roy.
Well, I don't quite get what you're talking about.
How you said it, because I said, did you like the Navy? Would you have went longer? And you said, oh no. You said you were trying to get out of there. Well, you were stuck in the Navy. You had to do your 4 years.
Well, I joined for 3 years, and then when we were coming back from Europe, we had just 2 days before we got into port. And then I was going to leave the ship and go to the discharge there in Norfolk, Virginia. And 2 days before that, got into port. There come an announcement over the PA system, and they said there was a plane shot down in Korea. And 5 minutes later, they said there was a second one. And about an hour later, come over the PA system that all leaves and discharges are canceled, and I got extended for a year. So that's why I spent 4 years. I went in October 10th, and I got out 4 years later on October 10th.
Do you want to tell a story, like what you did on the ships? And you were on the USS Missouri?
Well, the Missouri was... President Truman was president then, and he was born and raised in Missouri. And when the Missouri it took a little over 3 years to build it, and when they launched it, President Truman's daughter, Margaret, she was there. What they do when they launch a ship, they use a champagne bottle and they smash it on the bow, and then the ship slides backwards into the water. And when she busted the bottle against the bow of the ship it was sitting up where it was built, and the bottle broke and the champagne got all over her and also on the admiral that was standing there. he says, you don't need to Miss Truman. You don't need to worry about that. He says, you've got some of it on me too. But every time that President Truman and his wife come aboard the ship, it must have been a half a dozen times in the 4 years. And we'd have to go, when the president would come aboard, then they'd have what they call man the rail, when all of the railing from the main deck up, we stood arm's length away from one another, and it looks pretty nice, and that's kind of a salute to our president. Most of the time we would wait close to an hour. We knew they were coming before they come, so we had to stand there. We were ready, in full dress uniforms.
I'm showing a picture here of when you and Brian went to Hawaii and went to the Missouri.
Oh, yeah. My son works for a company, and he got in on the first start of when it was organized. He's done real good with that company, and it happened that he was on a board with this company, and they had a meeting in Hawaii, and that's where the Battleship Missouri is tied up now. It'll always be there as a memorial. And we went down one morning to see the ship, and as we could either go with a group or we could go on our own, but we could only go down one deck. It was roped off, and we could only go up one deck. And when we were leaving, the main guy that was working with as a memorial, they were organized there to entertain the people as they come aboard. And my son talked to him, and he mentioned that I was kind of sad that the fact that I couldn't take him down into the engineering space where I worked. And he says, you come tomorrow morning, and I'll take you anywhere that you want to go on the ship. So we spent the whole day. He went down to the engineering department, and we went from one end to the other. And wherever I worked was all familiar. I didn't think I'd ever get back there to see that once I had left the ship, but I did. And my son was pretty happy. He stood behind me the whole way, and he took pictures. He must have taken a couple hundred pictures. And he bought a cap that was USS Missouri on it for me, that he gave me, and then he bought 3 movies. With the Missouri was in 3 different wars, World War II and the Korean War, and then one in the Middle East. Anyway, he bought these movies, and he told me the next day that he didn't go to bed until he had watched those movies, because he got so attached to it. And it was quite an experiment.
Well, yeah, he said when you guys did that tour, he said you jumped up and down those ladders like you did it yesterday. And that was, well, when you guys went, that was like a couple years ago. So you hadn't been on that ship for 65 years.
Yeah.
And he said you knew every like you went everywhere and you knew exactly where you were going, to every little detail of that ship.
Well, I was showing the head guy there. He took us through the ship, and I was telling him more stuff was happening what he knew about. You could spend many days on that ship. It's so big that you wouldn't see half of it. He took me to places that I hadn't been in when I was on the ship, because you couldn't go to places that was restricted, like the fire control. You couldn't go there. Only the workers went there, because they keep all that information. So that, well, during World War II and Pearl Harbor, the Japanese tourists had been there to that island for a year or two before, and they were writing down where all the different stuff was installed and everything, and they used that when they bombed Pearl Harbor. That's why they don't let out information of a certain amount of anything that's with the military.
How long has the Missouri been there now, docked in Hawaii?
How long had we been in Hawaii?
No, how long has the ship been there, docked, retired?
Oh, when they were put in mothballs in Missouri twice, and then when different wars broke out, that they had to take it out of mothballs and put it back in action. And it got well. In the time I was on there, we used to take the midshipmen from the academy and on a month and a half training cruise, and we'd always go to Europe. And we took half of the midshipmen the first month and a half and went to Europe. And then we'd bring them back home, and they'd go on vacation, and then the ones that were on vacation, they'd go with us for a month and a half. So we were training for a good 3 months, and I suppose there was 400 or 500 midshipmen each cruise we went on. So they got training, when they were on our ship that they needed. So it got to be pretty interesting in a way, and we always went to different ports. First port I ever went to with the training cruise was Lisbon, Portugal. And during World War II, Portugal was neutral. And the Nazis from Germany, they could come in from one side of Portugal, and they could sit in the same building as any of the American military, and it was just nothing was mentioned, about anything as far as military went. But that was interesting. From Lisbon, Portugal, we went around Spain and into the Mediterranean to southern France, and they're ancient towns. They must probably be anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 years. And where we went, the first port there then was Nice, France, in the French Riviera. We spent a week there. Then we crossed the Mediterranean to North Africa, to Algiers in Algeria. And that's been in the news a lot of last years, because easy to go to those places like Pearl Harbor now. We went there, and that's where the Japanese attacked, and to know the island, it's Pearl Harbor is bay, and then the island sits right in the center, and it was water all the way around, and that's where the Japanese bombed. They had 300 and some planes that come, and they come back the second time, and they really done some damage. There was 9 battleships, and they sunk them all. All our battleships was tied up in port. But it just happened that our 3 largest aircraft carriers were at sea on a training cruise. And so the Japanese wanted to get them in the worst way, and they never hurt them, which was really a good thing.
Wow.
And of course, that's when we went. Ryan and I were in Hawaii then. When we went aboard, we took a bus that drove us out onto that island, and it had been fixed on the one end where they made a road from the island to the main part of Hawaii. And just as we got there, the bus driver said that road had been put in, and then they said, "Now, you can't take any pictures, because they didn't want what happened in Pearl Harbor to happen again." And as soon as he said that, there was a girl that was sitting right across from me. She took her camera out of her purse and started taking pictures. So it didn't do a lot of good to tell her that.
Well, Grandpa, we're getting on about 40 minutes here, so...
That's fine.
Is there anything you want to, else share about your Navy experience, and then we'll cut it off for the night and maybe do another one in a couple days.
Yeah, well, when you're ready, I'll be ready, I guess.
Okay. Well.
You want me to hang up?
No, you can say goodbye to everybody, and we'll talk to them soon.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye, guys. We'll be on in a couple days. God bless. If I can show
Can I hang up?